Zavi, hit this. We hit the music. Tried to catch him off guard, but he was ready for it, man. Producer Zavi, I said, hit the. I was trying to delay him, but anyway. Little inside joke there, folks. If you're listening, if you're watching, though, we really appreciate it. Welcome to another edition of Geeks Who Like Sports, wherever you are. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We hope it is good. As always, I am Ray Carsillo, to my best friend in the entire world over in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Lee Elias. Lee, how are you doing today, buddy?
Fall is in the air. It's actually autumn here. My Phillies have qualified for the playoffs and have been named NL East division title winners, champions, right? Champions for the first time in a very long time. The Phillies, for those of you watching, I'm wearing my Phillies shirt. If you're not a Phillies fan, you may turn away, but that's okay because today we are numero uno in the NL East, going for the numero uno in the MLB to get that very valuable bye that most teams screw up. And then we might lose to a team that is really struggling at the end of the season and trying to find their way through the playoffs. And then they might beat us and then get through and go to the world. And then Philadelphia will just remain Philadelphia forever and we'll never win anything ever again. Oh my God, Ray, what are we going to do? Does anybody out there understand, Ray? Does anybody understand the pain that it is being a Philadelphia sports fan?
Nope, and we don't care. Anyway, but yes, congratulations to your Phillies on winning the division, and that's good news for you guys. You guys obviously have been
They deserved it. They deserved it.
You've been in the pole position for pretty much the whole season.
Since May, I believe, was the last time we flipped to first. We were there most of the season, and we haven't looked back since. That's a long time.
For sure. We're going to talk a lot about baseball. We got a lot of baseball stuff. We got some football stuff. We got some WNBA stuff. We've got hockey preseason kicked off. We're never going to really touch upon that, but it did happen.
It will happen. It's happening, and none of it matters. There we go.
Correct. And we got a lot of geek stuff, really good geek segment today. We got Marvel, a little bit of DC, a lot of Marvel, a little bit of DC, some video game stuff, some wrestling stuff, a really big show. But we're going to kick things off with college football, Lee.
Yeah, we've been doing that a lot recently because college football has been thrown upside down with all of these upsets and interesting matchups. It is definitely a new day when it comes to college football.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Kansas State loses to now undefeated BYU, another ranked team falling to an unranked team. And again, this is big because with the extended playoffs this year, right? 12-team playoffs, right? Like, obviously, Kansas State's season far from over, but it also means that now suddenly if BYU knocking off a team like that, they're 4-0. Suddenly if they can jump up into the 12 seed or something, suddenly a team that nobody really expected could sneak into the playoffs. And so all these games really matter now, even in September. And yeah, that is a big upset as BYU not only beat Kansas State, they demolished Kansas. They had a 90-yard punt return, like every facet of the game, all three phases of the game, BYU. Brigham Young, Steve Young's alma mater, if I remember correctly, knocking off Kansas State. A couple other ones, Buffalo, another unranked team beating NIU. NIU, Northern Illinois University, of course, jumped up into the top 25 after they knocked off Notre Dame in one of the biggest upsets of the year. Again, we talk about this in Michigan over USC. That's a little bit of a less one, right? They were both in the teens, but technically Michigan was the lower
good game. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, a good game. Michigan just absolutely ran the ball down USC's throat. First time these two met as Big Ten teams, both in the Big Ten Conference now. But Lee, what are your thoughts on these games and just the games in general? We'll get to the Colorado Hail Mary game in a bit, but like just the upsets and so far the early college football season.
Yeah, I'm going to say this right. Believe it or not, we're not that far away from the college football postseason. I know it seems like it's far away, but it's going to come pretty quick.
Yeah,
I hope that these upsets are a preview of the postseason because I would love to see some lower ranked teams beat higher ranked teams. If we get to this postseason and 1-2 or 1-4, or 3-2 end up in the national championship game, it's going to be really annoying. All right. I'm not saying I don't want to see them there. I'm saying that I'd like to see some parity. The point of having playoffs is to have playoffs. So it's interesting. We've talked about this several weeks in a row. No one's safe. I also think, Ray, there's a domino effect that when you see a few upsets as a player, I can talk from playing and coaching experience, suddenly other teams start to believe, hey, we can do this. I've seen this in sports over many, many years where, like I said, a team comes out, wins, it shouldn't win, and suddenly other teams have life because, hey, if they can do it, we can do it. And if you think that the big teams don't get a little bit complacent at times, you're crazy. So it's an interesting year in college football. I like seeing this. I think it's a good thing for the sport. It's a good thing for parity. And anytime there's parity, the games are better.
Absolutely. And I agree with that 100%. And I mean, to be fair, I mean, I remember for a long time in the NFL, it was always the top seeds, even though you had a larger playoff bracket.
Right.
And you, again, to your point, you started to see more parity and you started to see less of a divide between, like, say, 1 and 2 and like 5 and 6. And hopefully you get that again here. Another team vying for rankings. This was a great game. Colorado came back to beat Baylor. Not one. Technically, they had 2 successful Hail Marys, but the first one, the wide receiver who was wide open dropped it. It hit him right in the numbers, and Shedeur Sanders couldn't believe it. He throws up another Hail Mary with no time left, and this time it is caught in the front of the end zone. Colorado forces overtime, where they then win in overtime, courtesy of the really the only two-way player we've seen in decades, Travis Hunter, forcing a fumble in overtime, and after that, and that was all they wrote. And now Colorado improves to 3-1. That's a big win for them because obviously they dropped to 2-2. It's a more uphill battle, which is not what Baylor is. Baylor is 2-2. So really just phenomenal football all weekend long in terms of college, and of course in the pros. We're going to move over to the NFL now. A lot happened in the NFL. Goodness gracious. Again, kind of around 500 with me with my picks because it's hard to predict some of these outcomes. Lee, I want to start with Minnesota.
Sure.
Are the Vikings for real? Because I think they are now after beating Houston 34-7.
They think they're for real. And I think that matters more than whatever we think. That team thinks they're for real, and they believe in themselves. And it's one of those things, Ray. They're for real until they're not. People always think that's a cop-out when I say that, but it's not. It's that belief is there until it's shattered by someone. And you see this all the time. So do I think they're real? Honestly, yes. Of course I do. You don't go 3-0 against some of these teams if you're not for real. Right. I think more importantly, they think they're for real. Now, their test is going to come. They're not going to go undefeated. No. They're going to suffer a loss or 2 in a row here. The response is a skill set that you don't know until you see it, right? Yeah. I'll just throw the Eagles in there. They lost week 2. They came back and won this week with really fundamental football decisions, right? Yes. That's a team that has some resolve after last season, of course. We don't know if Minnesota has that yet, okay? But you get a hot start. You lose a game, you lose 2 games. Now we find out what you're made of. But right now, they believe in who they are, and that's why they're going to continue to have success here.
Yeah, and their first place obviously is very early in the NFC North. They are, like you mentioned, they're 3-0, and they have a big game coming up against the Packers. Jordan Love likely to make his return from injury after missing a couple of weeks after getting hurt down in Brazil. But also needs to be credit where it's due. Sam Darnold is no longer seeing ghosts, folks. I love what Bill Belichick said, and I think it might have been on ESPN this week. He basically said everybody believed in Sam Darnold except for the Jets.
Yeah, I was just going to say something like that. The problem is the Jets, right? Yeah. It's also why, and not trying to jump around here, but that's why Aaron Rodgers needed to be their quarterback right now. You needed someone who doesn't care. Like his mentality, his mindset is actually perfect for that team because the Jets thing's not going to bother him, right? Even though the gods tried to warn him 5 minutes into his first game, you don't want to be here. He doesn't care. Now, Darnold, again, that was the wrong organization. That soundbite that went around with the ghost thing, it was incredibly unfortunate that
literally haunted him for years.
Yeah, well, I'm going to say, look, anything you say can be recorded and used against you in the court of public opinion, especially in the NFL.
Yes.
It's tough. It's tough that he said that, but the way people ran with that, I can't say it was wrong. It's just it was tough. I felt for the kid. I'm like, that's just not how you want to start your NFL career. He's always been talented. He's just in the right environment now. He's not with the New York pressure of a team that really does not succeed. He's with the team that when you do well, they're happy for you, and when you don't do well, they move on to another team. All right, and it's I've been up there. It's a much better environment for him. So I'm happy to see him succeeding. And you're starting to see the makings of this guy might be a legit quarterback.
Well, and the thing is you have to remember too is that like the part of the reason why I think Rodgers can succeed in New York is because he's already been developed.
And right? He's already won a Super Bowl too. Like
right, and that's the thing and that's the problem. That was what happened with Darnold is that Darnold needed some some development. And he went to San Francisco as a backup, learned under the Shanahan coaching tree. And now he's a lot more polished for that time, which is also, there's also a lot of talk this week about how a lot of these NFL rookie quarterbacks kind of just get thrown to the fire when a lot of them really do need to sit for a year and really learn the NFL system before they get thrown. It's very hard to judge them. And then sometimes it's hard for them to bounce back. Like, I think Bryce Young might be the next guy who does this, where he goes elsewhere, develops, sits for a little while, and then ends up thriving, not in the dumpster fire that is Carolina. Although they did, under Andy Dalton, by the way, the first guy to throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns this year. The Panthers knocked off the Raiders. Raiders, what are you doing? Right. Holy cow. But credit where it's due. Sam Darnold, by the way, this is a fun stat. He's the 5th quarterback in the last 25 years to start 3-0 and have 8 touchdowns or more in those 3 games. The other 2 of those 4 went on to win the Super Bowl. Kurt Warner in Super Bowl 34 and Matthew Stafford a few years ago with the Rams. So, and that's a big deal. Not saying the Vikings are going to win the Super Bowl. Sorry, Viking fans. I still don't think it's your year. I still think you're not the purple people eaters of the 70s. But at this point, you've got yourself in prime position to make the playoffs. Absolutely. But there are still, I think, better teams in the NFC. But that is a great stat. That is great precedent. And honestly, again, great for Sam Darnold to really kind of turn his career around, at least up to this point.
It's great that you love to see it. I mean,
yes,
you love to see it. Again, the pressure these guys face is largely misunderstood by, I think, everybody. This is their livelihood. They want to succeed. Every single guy in that league wants to succeed, and I'm glad to see him succeeding.
Yeah. So as usual, we're not going to go all the way around the league, but I also want to mention there's another trend. Malik Willis for the Packers cut loose by the Titans, similar situation. Now 2-0, filling in for Jordan Love as he destroyed his old organization, 30-14. You're starting to see this where sometimes quarterbacks get drafted and then they go elsewhere, and that's when they succeed. They don't succeed with the team that drafts them, actually. This is giving a little bit of a trend. Although one quarterback, and speaking of that, one quarterback who did not succeed this week, who looked like he was going to be, was Baker Mayfield. The Bucs, Lee, it looks like they fell into the trap. The Broncos looked absolutely awful the first 2 games. Bo Nix comes out. I did say Bo Nix, I think, will have a nice career. He won't be a great career, but he'll have a nice career. And Bo Nix leads the Broncos to a 26-7 win, where it looks like the Bucs, looking ahead maybe to your Eagles, fell into a classic trap with the Broncos.
Yeah, it happens. I mean, look, we don't ever know injuries. We don't know where guys are. You said it before. Your team goes 0-2 or has a tough start, man. That 3rd game, yes, you could see some teams in a ride or die attitude this week. We're going to talk about that with a few other teams that played this week. Week 3 is always interesting, though. If you're coming in and you need a win and you have a team that's kind of comfortable, it's a playoff team versus a non-playoff team at that point, right? Now, long-term, that strategy is not going to play out. You cannot play playoff football for 15 weeks in a row.
Right.
Tom Brady would disagree with me on that, but that's the truth. You've got to maintain your health throughout the season.
100%.
So again, going back to Minnesota, it's in the response, right? It's how do you respond to this stuff? An 18-0 team is not going to happen. You're going to lose. So how do you respond? And you always give credit to the other team for the victory.
100%. 100%.
Mayfield will respond.
Absolutely. I think actually, and again, I think this is going to be a great game, Bucs Eagles, this coming week. So going to be tough to pick that one. Speaking of, like you mentioned, though, 0-2 teams again. I think only 5 teams, I think, in NFL in the Super Bowl era, 5 teams have started 0-3 and still went on to make the playoffs. The Ravens were looking that in the face, went on to Dallas, and the Cowboys suck. The Ravens beat them 28-25. Ravens let them back in that game. Ravens were up, I think, 28-6 at one point. Dallas came storming back, but then the Ravens would end up getting a couple of key first downs late and would hold on. But Lee, what's going down in Big D? They now fall to 1-2. And honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that Deshaun Watson, we'll get to this in a second, it's absolute dog crap. The Browns could have beat Dallas too. Dallas is looking terrible in the first 3 games.
This is going to sound cliche, but it's the truth. That's an overrated team. I don't know how else to say it. Cowboys fans, come at me all you want. They're an overrated team. I never looked at them coming into this season as a Super Bowl favorite.
Yeah.
All right. They're looking like their typical old 8-8. I know that's not what it could be anymore. Selves.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. They'll come. You know how this is going to work. We all know how this is going to work. They're going to go on a screamer 5 wins in a row. Going to be Super Bowl champions again. Not really. And then they're going to lose the big game. It's just, you know how this goes, Dallas fans.
Right.
Like, Ray, here's a question. I want an unbiased answer. We're not answering this as a Giants fan or as an Eagles fan. Has that team improved enough over the last year or 3 years to be a serious contender for the Super Bowl?
No, they've gotten worse.
So I don't understand all the hoopla about the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah. They are an average football team that will either, this is the truth too, they'll stay at 8-8 or 9-9, or they will decide that they're going to play great and a little overachieve, or they'll underachieve. Right now they're on the underachieving side.
Right.
But I'll eat my words if they go on to win the whole thing, but there's nothing there. There's just nothing there that makes me think they're going to be a great team. You gave Dak the biggest contract ever. He didn't deserve it.
Nope.
All right. I do not understand the thinking of we'll overpay, hoping they're going to live up to that standard. Yeah. It just, that's the way it is today, right? I mean, you know that.
No, and we've been talking about this for decades, though. Until Jerry Jones steps down as general manager of that team, he can still be the owner, but until he steps down as general manager, that team is always going to be. It's going to be all style, no substance.
They are, to me, an average football team that can play above average at times. That is where they're at. Okay, sure. And just to be fair, I would actually lump the Eagles. Just so I think they're a little better than Dallas, but they're not a Super Bowl caliber team yet. To me, they're an above average team. Yeah, the Eagles are an above average team that will again overachieve or underachieve, right? Like Kansas City is a great team that even if they underachieve, they can still win the Super Bowl. I'm not saying that about this. The Commanders are a below average team that are overachieving.
Yes.
We're also in week 3, so everybody calm the hell down.
Yes. Speaking of the Commanders, it needs to be mentioned, again, Bengals fighting for their lives. The Bengals, though, fall to 0-3. And the Commanders, and look, I said this repeatedly. I said it during the draft. I've said it at the beginning of the year. I said Jaden Daniels is, in the next couple of years, going to rise up and become the best NFC East quarterback. And Jaden Daniels showed flashes of that on Monday Night Football.
Sure.
He had more touchdowns than incompletions. I mean, again, it's also the scheme and it's also the system. But the fact that he's already grasped it, and some people are like, well, it's a simple system. Doesn't matter. It works. He put up 38 points. Who
cares how simple it is if it works?
That's what I'm saying. People criticize Cam
and lose.
People criticize Cam Newton, and Cam Newton won an NFC championship, right? Never won a Super Bowl. He won an NFC championship, and that's a lot more than a lot of guys can say. Like, a simple system isn't necessarily a bad thing, but the Commanders are now 2-1, right? Again, this is the first time since 1940, no punts, no turnovers in this game. Does Washington's secondary and defense need to play better? Absolutely. If they want to do something, absolutely. Are they going to do anything this year? Probably not. But boy, if you are a Commanders fan, do you feel that your future is bright with this kid? Because like I said, again, I think this kid was probably the best quarterback coming out of the draft. And at least through 3 weeks, that is indeed the case. Again, very, very early. Very, very early. But boy, was that an impressive win for Washington.
Yeah, no, hey, listen, good on them. They're also in a little bit of a honeymoon period with their new owner. They see a future. Under Snyder a few years back, no future, nowhere to go. Everybody wanted him out. They lost their identity, everything. Mm-hmm. Now they have a future. This is the start. This is the ember is flying. The spark has been lit. It is a low flame. It's going to turn into an inferno. I think you're right, Ray. I think that will be the best NFC East team in a few seasons.
Yeah. No, they're building in they're trending in the right direction for sure. And you know what? At least
you're gonna agree with that for your own team.
I was like somehow the Giants pull off a win.
No, somehow the Giants returned.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I'm going to again give Giants fans a dose of reality. Do not get excited over this win. Okay, Cleveland is worse than I thought they were, but even before that, they were not a great team, right? The first 2 weeks showed it that Deshaun Watson is dog crap. He lost 2 fumbles, although it was nice to see the Giants' defensive line coming together the way we expected to. The only reason why the Giants won that game is because of Malik Neighbors. And I will say this, treat him right because we have a generational wide receiver, I think, in Malik Neighbors. But if it was not for his superhuman efforts to make catches that most other receivers can't catch because Daniel Jones sucks, we would have lost this game. The balls that Daniel Jones were throwing, and people are like, well, look at Jones's stats. They're inflated. Malik Neighbors literally had to rip passes away from cornerbacks that should have been picked off. He literally had to fly like Superman to make touchdown catches. If it was not for Malik Neighbors making Daniel Jones look like a halfway decent quarterback, they would have lost this game as well. Daniel Jones still sucks. He had a nice stat line on Sunday because of his phenomenal receiver. Right, Daniel Jones, 236, 2 touchdowns. That would have been $150 with 1 touchdown if it wasn't for Neighbors. Right. Do not forget that, okay? And again, Neighbors had both touchdowns, right? At some point, it's great to see the offensive line coming together like I said they would. Again, great to see the defensive line coming together. Daniel Jones is not our quarterback of the future. Do not get excited, Giants fans. This was a good performance by everybody else around him to make a mediocre, below-average quarterback look like he sucks less than he does.
Do you know any Giants fans that think what you're saying?
Too many.
You're kidding.
I've been seeing it online. They're like, he's back. He's back. I'm like, you're a moron. You're a moron.
He's back. Dumbledore.
He was never there.
If Ray had a chance in the Harry Potter world, he would have Avada Kedavra Daniel Jones a long time ago.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I'm sorry. Look, again, you have to look at the whole team. The whole team played well. By the way, we really need a kicker because we could have also iced that game earlier than we did. But the guy Joseph, I think it was Greg Joseph, who he signed off as a free agent, missed his only field goal attempt from 47 yards out, which, again, not a chip shot, but also, like, you need to make that to ice the game. Fortunately, the Giants defense came up big. Again, forcing 2 forced fumbles against Deshaun Watson. He lost both of them, and that was really the difference in this game. Again, it's more that Deshaun Watson sucks more than the Giants are suddenly good. I will say this, though. We have a really interesting slate of games ahead. The Eagles are playing the Bucks. That's going to be a big one.
It's a great game. Yeah,
huge game.
You look forward to a game like that.
Yeah, Washington could improve to 3-1 because they're taking on the Cardinals. And although the Cardinals are definitely better than they were last year, also with a superstar receiver with Marvin Harrison Jr., the Commanders can go 3-1. And I will say this: I do not think there's no way the Giants should beat Dallas on Thursday Night Football. There is no way the Giants should beat Dallas on Thursday Night Football. But anything can happen. And should the Giants beat Dallas on Thursday Night Football, Dallas' season is done. If Dallas loses to the Giants and drops to 1-3, I'm going to say it right now, Dallas does not make the playoffs this year.
You put me in a weird predicament, Ray, because I do not believe that the Giants will beat Dallas in any way.
Me either.
They will be killed, but I also would love to see that happen.
Yeah, because here's the thing, because even if the Giants improve to 2-2, we are also not making the playoffs. But if the Giants beat Dallas, got Diet Coke.
Lunch has arrived. We record this midday. My lunch is here. I have no shame.
My lunch will be after this show. So
yes, which is correct lunchtime for you.
Yes.
Please continue.
But yeah, no. If the Giants somehow upset Dallas on Thursday Night Football, and again, folks, I am not predicting this. I think, like Lee said, I think Dallas should win by 2 touchdowns.
No, we want it.
We want it.
We both want it.
But we don't think it's going to happen.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Exactly, because if Dallas falls to 1-3. And Washington and Philadelphia improved to 3-1 this week. And again, the Giants don't matter. The Giants aren't going anywhere. Again, the Giants ceiling, said at the beginning of the year, Giants ceiling, 7 wins. 7 wins. And after beating Cleveland, that ceiling's still possible.
All right, let me just help you here. Likely to happen. Dallas will beat the Giants. Giants fans will come back down to earth. Cowboys fans, I'm sorry, Dallas will beat the Giants. Giants fans will come back down to earth. Cowboys fans will believe they're going to the Super Bowl. Yes. Eagles probably lose to the Bucks, even though I don't want them to. Eagles fans go into their depression. thinking that we're horrible before we come back next week, win again, making us a Super Bowl team. And the Commanders are just happy to be here. My prediction.
Yeah, that's a great way to sum it up. And that, folks, is the third week of the NFL. Also, really quick fun story. I don't know if you heard this. It was leaked that the NFL, and I guess this is how they have a system of how, we always hear about this in the draft, about compensatory draft picks, right? When players leave through free agency and then the team does not replace that player with a player of a certain value, they get a extra draft pick, usually starting in the third, so usually at the end of the third round they start. And they do this, they calculate this. There is a secret NFL ranking. There is one employee at the NFL who ranks every player and gives them a numerical value, and then uses that numerical value to calculate the compensatory draft pick in the draft. And I demand to see this list. I want to know where everyone is.
You know damn well they're using the Madden rankings to do all of
no way. No, they should give those rankings to Madden. You know why they probably don't release this is because they don't want to tank all the fantasy football leagues and all the money that happens at that and all the gambling that goes on. That's probably why this list never gets leaked.
You are 100% correct.
Well, there we go. Look at that. I'm 100% correct. We're done with that segment.
Wait, because of that, and I'm kind of your big brother, you're now only 97% correct.
Damn it. Okay. Well, I'll take it. It's still an A+. So,
yeah,
but
it is an A+, but it's not 100. And I know you because you're like me. Like when I got my master's thesis back and they gave me a 98, I was really excited because it was my master's thesis. And this voice crept in my brain. But why didn't I get 100? So I called my teacher and she says, no one gets 100, Lee. 98 is the highest score we ever give out. I said, but like the 2 points is like, you passed your master's course. You have a master's. Good day, sir. I was like, thank you. I was like, we laughed on the way up.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's great. That is great. But no, that is how we operate 100%. Moving over to baseball. We talked about the Phillies at the top of the show. The Yankees, if the Yankees have to win one of their final 6 games to win the American League East. Houston lost a tough one to Seattle actually yesterday, which keeps Seattle's slim hopes for their division alive. Really interesting. I announced on the show, I thought there were a lot of teams dead to rights. I thought we knew all we were worrying about was seeding. I thought we knew who the teams were. I thought we did. And now, out of nowhere, the Detroit freaking Tigers have stormed back, taken the 5 seed in the American League. Minnesota and Kansas City both lose. Kansas City's lost 7 in a row. Minnesota, I think, has lost like 8 of 10. And the Detroit, right now, Minnesota, who has been a wild card team since like April 15th, are now on the outside looking in. And to Lee's point, much like Washington, Detroit's like, we're just happy to be here.
I'm going to say it again. Get hot at the right time. You develop at the right time. It clicks at the right time. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
Right now, hear me out here. The Chicago White Sox, if they win the rest of their games, and every other team in Major League Baseball gets really sick and can't play, and then they give them 5 wins for each of the wins, they still won't make the playoffs.
Yeah, no, it's
There's no chance.
The White Sox are 1 loss away, by the way, folks, at this point.
It's going to happen.
Of setting the all-time record for being the losingest team ever. And funny enough, they'll play those red-hot Detroit Tigers to end the season. Cleveland has clinched the Central. The Yankees, again, on the verge of clinching the East. Baltimore likely to be the 4 seed. But suddenly, it's actually a 5-team race for those last 2 wild card spots, because again, the Twins are only a game back of Detroit and Kansas City. Seattle has gone on a tear that bounced back. Seattle's only 2 back in the wild card and only 4 back in the division with 6 to play. Technically, Boston and Tampa aren't dead, but they're 4 back with 6 to play as well for the wild card. They're pretty much done.
They're dead, but this is what I say. I was really critical of the MLB years ago. These playoffs are working. They're working right.
Yeah.
Because, there's nothing worse 10 years ago than when your team went on a heater the last 10 games. It just didn't matter. It just didn't matter. I believe in sports. If you get hot, let's just say the last 10% of the season. Would that be fair?
Yeah.
You deserve your shot.
Yeah.
And these expanded playoffs give you that shot. And the fact that it's a
Yes.
real playoff series now,
Yeah.
right? If a team can get hot, and this is where traditionalists will disagree with me, Ray. If a team can get hot, sneak in
Yeah.
and stay hot, they can win the World Series.
It happened in Texas last year.
It has happened many times. It happened in Texas last year. Yeah, I mean, obviously, right? Last year's a great example.
Yeah.
And my point is that I'm okay with that because a lot of fans are like, they shouldn't have even been there. Like, no, I don't agree with that. The team that wins should be playing the best baseball at the end of the season. This isn't Europe, where the league championship is the biggest thing in the world. And I'll tell you what, Ray, I respect that. I respect that the league championship is the big thing over there. It's not here. You should be able to get hot and storm the playoffs. Texas was pissed, ready to win, and they did it.
They got mad that they lost the division on the last day of the season and then ran roughshod over the entire playoffs. And honestly, part of the reason why Detroit is thriving is Detroit made this is how trades should work when both teams thrive. The Dodgers sent Trey Sweeney, former Yankee prospect shortstop, to Detroit. He has taken over as their starting shortstop and has really shored up that position for them, along with other young kids they've called up. But they traded Jack Flaherty, their number 2 starter, who is now the Dodgers' number 1 starter due to all the injuries. And Trey Sweeney has been a huge part of that Tigers lineup that has helped them to go on this run. And Flaherty has been a huge part of the Dodgers that helped them. They are on the verge of locking up the National League West, and they are fighting with the Phillies going back and forth for the 1 seed in the NL. They will be the 2. They will both get the buys. It'll be Phillies Dodgers. It's just a matter of who's 1-2.
I will say that I enjoyed the fact last night after the Mets fans rightly celebrated winning that series against the Phillies. They did win that. I take nothing away from that. But Ray, I had a little Ray in me last night. Enjoyed the fact knowing that they all had to watch, not play. Sit there and watch the Phillies win that division title with the Fanatic waving the flag all over the field, knowing that you better beat the Braves tonight or you're in deep doo-doo.
Because the Mets do have a 2-game lead over the Braves for the final wild card spot, but they start a 3-game series in Atlanta with those Braves this evening.
Now, Mets fans, Ray and I are obliged to say it. You're built for disappointment here. All right, you're just built for it. This is exactly what happens to you. Now, listen, of course you may go in there with this great hot streak and go sweep the Braves and make the playoffs.
Sure.
But history tells me you're going to screw this up.
Yep.
I don't care how injured Atlanta is.
Yep.
If you think they're just going to lay down for you, what you think, that's exactly what you think is going to happen. You're crazy.
Yeah.
This is going to be fun.
This is going to be a fun series. Absolutely. I mean, the Padres and Dodgers have a 3-game series that could affect the division, but both those teams are making the playoffs no matter what. This 3-game series is for the playoffs for the National League. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. We mentioned the Dodgers. Also, we need to mention Shohei Ohtani. Going to be the unanimous MVP as the DH of the Dodgers. First ever 50-50 season, doing things that have never been done before.
51-51.
It's soon to be 52-52 and 53.
Awesome. Yeah.
He continues to set new bars with this. And just having an absolute phenomenal year.
I think the best quote, and I think it was on ESPN, was that you have to remember a few things about Ohtani because people are like, oh yeah, it's Ohtani. No. This is an injury recovery year for Ohtani, and he's doing this.
He's doing this with no UCL. Basically.
Right. He's not pitching.
Yeah.
And he's making a $700 million contract look low.
Yeah.
He's making that look low for him. He is the greatest baseball player, I think, Ray, as of this moment that's ever lived. People compare him to Babe Ruth a lot. He's doing better than Babe Ruth.
Yeah.
This might have been what it was like when Babe Ruth played.
Yeah. Right.
Right. But he's the greatest baseball player I've ever seen in my life. I don't ever remember anybody coming in and doing this ever in my life. Yeah. You've had guys that were great at obviously home runs, guys that were great at stealing, never all of them at once. It's insane. He's worth every penny that they've extorted to him through tax evasion and things like that.
Yes, and having the translator take the fall, and they'll be losing the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, I wonder if he bet on Think about how long ago. Remember we talked about that in the preseason? How like this?
Yeah.
Oh, he'll just play and people will be quiet. That's
Yep.
what happened.
That's what happened. Also need to briefly mention this will be the first time in 10 years no team will hit 100 wins.
I'm okay with it. All right.
Yeah.
I don't think the 100-win moniker is necessarily a good thing. I think there are great teams that do it.
Yeah.
And I think there's nothing wrong with that. But this means parity is in the league.
Yes.
All right. Now, again, you do have 100-plus loss teams, which is also equally not as good.
Correct.
All right. But I do appreciate the 100-win plateau, but it's not something I think that is needed to make baseball great.
Yeah.
I know teams love that, but I like the way baseball is. It's much more competitive now than it has been in years past, outside
100%.
Chicago White Sox.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. And even teams like the Oakland Athletics have been very competitive this year, even though obviously not going to make the playoffs. And of course, very sad and a lot of vitriol, and understandably so, and rightfully so, the last few days in Oakland as they wrap up the last few games at the Coliseum, aka Rickey Henderson Field. And
did you read the owner's letter to the fans today?
Oh God, what a Fisher's such a disgrace.
It's brutal. We tried.
No, you didn't.
No, you didn't. Yeah, don't save face like that.
Don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining.
This is like one of those things he's going to write that and then we're so happy to be here in Las Vegas, home of the Athletics. You already know how that's going to play out.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, one last quick baseball story. I really want to get your thoughts on this. C.J. Abrams, shortstop for the Washington Nationals, was sent down to the minor leagues because he stayed out all night gambling at a Chicago casino before a day game between the Nationals and the Cubs, in which Abrams would go 0 for 3. Now, Lee, I want to know what you think, because this is, let's be honest, folks, this isn't the first time that a baseball player has done things they shouldn't have the night before and then come on and played the game the next day. But we always hear stories about how Vida Blue pitched a no-hitter on acid, how David Wells pitched a perfect game hungover. But if Abrams had gone 3 for 3 instead of 0 for 3, would he have been punished like this?
Ooh, that's a good question, Ray. This is my answer to that. If you have team rules and a team standard, and that standard is of excellence and winning, and you're not in the playoffs,
right?
Yes, I think you do this because you need to make sure that those kids know that there's a culture that we're building here of excellence. And when you look at some of these great teams, you talked about some great individual efforts that have happened in the past.
Right.
Great players don't win the World Series. Great teams do. And if you look at the teams that are heading there, there is a standard of excellence that I think these players would police themselves from doing something like that. All right. Now, with that said, I don't know what's said in the clubhouse. I don't know what's been dictated rule-wise. I don't know a lot of the behind the scenes of that situation. But my guess is that there's a rule in place. He didn't follow the rules. He probably got snarky with somebody he shouldn't have. They benched him. Yeah. What do they got to lose right now? They're already looking towards next season.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you lose the standard, you lose the team.
Right. Oh, that's a good point. That's a fair assessment. Like you said. Now, here's the thing, though. If Washington was in a playoff position and this happened, do you send him down to the minors?
I don't think it would have happened if they were in a playoff position. That's the other side of it.
That's a good point.
Like, this is why they're not in a playoff position.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So again, it's a little chicken and the egg. All right.
Sure.
Do I think that players go out on top teams? Sure. But there's a difference, right? Like, and again, right? Look, there are some people out there that can go out and drink all night and be amazing the next day, right? But Mickey Mantle's coming to mind, all right? But they knew who he was, absolutely. And he performed. He showed up,
right?
He also destroyed his body in the process. But again, this is where it gets a little gray, Ray, because we're talking professional sports now, not youth sports or college sports. If a guy can go out and drink all night, show up and be the greatest baseball player in the world, I mean, you've got to play that the way it is. All right. Yeah. I mean, if you have team rules and he's not following the team rules, you've got some tough decisions to make there. All right. We're also talking about a very different time period with Mickey Mantle. With that said,
absolutely.
You went 0-3. I mean, you're not one of those guys. I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So no, there's got to be a standard. My guess is the attitude was season's over. Why does it matter? I'd bench your ass if you said that to me in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't want to hear that.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I think we're kind of we're in agreement on this.
Coach Lee coming to you live. Geeks Who Like Sports.
There you go. That's why we asked the coach. We asked the coach what the coach would do. Speaking of standards, moving now to the WNBA playoffs. Actually, first, very quickly, congratulations to Asia Wilson for winning the unanimous MVP and Caitlin Clark for winning the unanimous Rookie of the Year. Absolutely.
Oh, did she do that? Did she win Rookie of the Year? Oh, amazing.
Yeah, unanimously.
Amazing.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal. So a couple of unanimous decisions there. Also, not surprised that Caitlin Clark did not get MVP. People being like she should have got both. She didn't. She should have got both. I don't think she should have got both, but she definitely was Rookie of the Year.
She could have been in the voting for both. I think
that's fair. I think that she could have got some votes, but like I think that but yeah, no, it's
if her team came in first, she would have got it.
That's a fair point. That is 100%.
That's part of the MVP is your team is in a very high position. You got to remember that.
Right. And that's the thing. And as good as she did to turn Indiana around in literally 1 year to the point where they did get back to the playoffs.
She will be MVP.
She will be an MVP, yes. And speaking of the WNBA playoffs, it is underway. And speaking of Indiana, they lost to Connecticut in game 1 of their first round series. The Liberty beat the Dream in their first round, game 1 of their first round series. The Lynx beat the Mercury, and the Aces beat the Storm with game number 2 for the Liberty and the Dream and the Aces and Storm taking place tonight. My New York Liberty, number 1 seed, powerhouses, but they always seem to choke in the championship round. Would really love to see. It'd be really interesting to see a WNBA ticker tape parade in New York City.
I think you're lining up for something like that, and I think that whatever city wins, if you don't do that this season, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
It's time. We're here. Let's do
100%. 100%. If the Liberty win the championship, the Liberty should get a ticker tape parade 100%.
I totally agree with that 100%. Not shared it, by the way, either. It should be their own parade.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Give them a parade. Give them a damn parade.
Right.
It's a beautiful time of year. Anyway, New York in the fall is lovely.
It is pretty awesome. I always enjoyed my early fall days commuting to the city, walking through the city. I agree with you, Ray.
Yeah. So WNBA playoffs underway. I mean, look, the Liberty are the hands-on favorite again to win it all, but they have never won it all. So it'll be interesting to see if they can pull that off this year as the 1 seed once again. So
it'll be fun. You know what else I want to see if someone can pull off, Ray?
What?
I want to see if Agatha Harkness can pull off going down the witch's road and surviving her transformation back into the greatest witch of all time, which she is.
Oh boy, I'm really enjoying the first 2 episodes.
I am too. So much that we haven't talked about it once. You are all getting a live first take conversation between Ray and I about Agatha all along. Yes. By the way, they changed the name of that show. Did you notice that? Nobody really said anything about that.
Yeah, no, they tweaked it just a little bit.
Yeah. Originally, it was just Agatha Coven of Chaos, and then they just started calling it Agatha all along. And I think everybody was like, "Yeah, that's what it's always called." They're like, "No, it wasn't." But now we understand why what the Coven of Chaos is.
Yes,
really good. This show, Ray, and I've obviously just transitioned us into the geek segment. Sorry about that.
Yes,
but this show, in the first 2 episodes, we'll say, because we know Disney can screw things up sometimes.
Yes. Yes.
It's like it feels like, listen, WandaVision was the first show we ever did.
Yeah.
Let's do it right.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. Like,
yeah,
you know these characters. There's the same. First thing I love is that, hey, we're in Westview. It is a lot of the same characters from.
It's picking up basically right where WandaVision left off.
I wasn't necessarily expecting that.
Yeah,
which I don't know why. I just wasn't fully expecting.
They do say that 3 years have passed, like so that like she's been trapped in Wanda's spell, even with Wanda passing on in Doctor Strange 2. That
which they
Agatha's been stuck for 3 years, as if she was in a TV show.
So I will say this: we haven't given away too many spoilers here. This is a spoiler alert if you have not seen the first 2 episodes.
Yes, I mean, we're basically this is the premise of the show,
right? But just to what Ray just said, they tap on that. It's very clear that Wanda is dead. The show starts out with Agatha in the spell, and there's it's obviously Wanda dead.
Yes,
kind of alerting to her that, hey, you can break out of this spell now whenever you want to.
Yeah.
And then some interesting things starts happening, and it captivated me. It was great.
Yes.
The act, man, Catherine Hahn is so good.
Powerhouse.
I'm going to say this again. she's on her way to being the greatest witch of all time in cinema or TV.
I mean, she's gonna be up there.
I'm talking Bewitched. I'm talking everything.
Yeah.
It's first off, she's done 2 vastly different characters in this show already.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone's giving her credit for that. Like, she's doing a parody of the Mayor of Easttown, the first episode, in a way that she's doing it that it's a parody, which it's really hard to do that kind of acting.
Yeah.
All right. It's really hard. Then into Agatha Harkness without power. It's amazing. Ray, I'll shut up. Go ahead.
No, she's been phenomenal. The dialogue has been great. It's just been really well written. There's a lot of fun nods to things like Senior Scratchy, the budding comes back. We speculated that Senior Scratchy was actually going to be Nicholas Scratch, but then in Lee's point, there was a whole thing about Nicholas Scratch in the altered reality, and it is in the comics that he was her son in this altered reality, and you wonder if he's going to come back around. They mentioned the Darkhold is gone, right? Which is a big deal. And the first episode is just them setting the pieces in place. It's Agatha breaking out of the spell. It's introducing the major characters like Rio Vidal, Teen, people who we don't know who they are, but who are clearly more than what they seem. And then episode 2 starts the almost like a heist movie. We need to get a coven together. We need to walk the road. We've got to get my powers back.
And none of them trust each other.
And I love it. None of them trust the other. And what I also love is that all these characters, by the way, are from the comics.
Right.
They are witches in Marvel Comics. They were not created just for the show. Jennifer Kale, who is a very obviously they've been tweaked, but she was a Midnight Sun in the comics. Alice Wu Gulliver, who just like in the show, she's a blood witch, as in her mom was a witch, and she kind of inherited her powers. But she's also a detective. Lilia Caldera is one of the most powerful witches in Marvel Comics. This is phenomenal.
Right. It is. And I'll tell you something else I've noticed, Ray. Let's start looking ahead a little bit. So obviously the second episode, as you said, they get together, they get into the Witcher's Road, right? And that's where they leave off, is they're on the road.
Yes.
And there's a young man that she can't hear his name. She's still bewitched.
Anything about him, anything about his origin story, anything about him, and it gets muted out, and she knows there's some kind of weird spell going on.
Right.
Here.
And but he is not aware of it, which is very interesting as well. One of the things I notice, Ray, one of the things I pick up on, as you do, is that when you watch a show on Disney Plus, there are suggested titles with it.
Yes.
And Moon Knight is one of those titles, which makes me wonder if there's going to be some connection to that plane of existence or different aspects of that show. Because at the end of the second episode, there are Death Eaters coming after Agatha for whatever reason.
So they are those. That's the Salem 7.
There you go.
Right now in the comics, the Salem 7.
Oh, it's the witches she took out.
No. So maybe here, but in the comics, they're her grandchildren, which is interesting, right? Because again, they haven't even established Nicholas Scratch that much. So unless he appears later. Right, that's what a lot of folks were speculating whether Teen, he's just called Teen in the show, which is the boy whose name she can't hear, is Nicholas.
That would make sense.
It could make sense, but I don't think they're going to do that. I think, and this has also been put out there, I think
Mephisto.
No, please don't.
It's Mephisto, stop. Ray.
I've already been seeing people talk about it. It's not Mephisto. I don't think it's Mephisto. It's highly unlikely it's Mephisto. I think. This has also been put out there, and I think this is the right theory. I think it's Wiccan. I think it is the reincarnated version of Wiccan, which of course is one of Wanda's children, either from an alternate universe or whatever. And the reason why Agatha can't hear his name or his origin is because he's got a protection spell on him from Wanda. But the reason why he's looking into his powers, and without Wanda around, he's looking for the next best thing, which would also lean into the comics. Because remember, in the comics, Agatha was not really antagonistic to Wanda. She was more of a teacher. Right. She was a teacher to Wanda, right? She ends up failing Wanda in the end, of course, like everybody does, and she does the whole No More Mutants thing. But and House of M and all that other stuff. But it would make sense if Agatha becomes a tutor to Wiccan, I think, which also means that the speedster, whose name I can't remember. The other son could be out there somewhere.
He could be.
So.
It'll be interesting to see if they go simple or if they go not simple, and also what planes of existence she's going to jump on. I mean, look, this was one of the things that Marvel was doing. I actually didn't mind. Moon Knight opened up the kind of I don't remember what they called it, but it was like a death plane, like the afterlife.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. And then there's the astral plane, which is part of the afterlife in Black Panther. I'm interested to see what planes of existence exist here. And if they connect that to Moon Knight. I wanted to see Midnight Suns. I was willing to go through all those shows and the Eternals. And I was like, all right, this is not a bad place to launch. Like I'm ready for what's coming next. That's been the big problem with TV lately, is that they always keep teasing the thing I actually want. Yeah. And I don't need these long backstories. Star Wars, I'm talking to you. But I'm looking forward to where this show is going. The acting is fantastic. There's a connection point to WandaVision that actually makes WandaVision better, probably. We talked about this when WandaVision was on, that at some point there might be a show that makes this show make even more sense. Yeah. And it's not much better, but it's a little bit better. So there you go. Agatha all along, definitely something to watch if you haven't started yet.
Yes. My only issue with the show so far, and at first it was funny. Is that Rio Vidal and Agatha obviously have a long relationship that I want to speculate about what her character really is as well, because Rio Vidal is not from the comics, and clearly it literally just means Life River. Her name just directly translates in Spanish to Life River, and I highly doubt that's what it's going to mean down the road. It's clear that when they make the coven, that Rio was supposed to be part of the coven,
right,
and instead Agatha goes and gets her neighbor's Mrs. Hart, who happens to be a gardener. All of the witches, when they make the coven, recognize each other, and like everybody just ignores Mrs. Hart, and like nobody's like, "You're a green witch. You're the Earth Witch." Like I thought that I bumped on that a little bit. Like at first I thought it was a great.
I wonder if there's more there than meets the eye.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
I'm hoping for that.
Maybe because she is a green witch. Like, and she discovers that.
That would be amazing, because it would definitely be like, and it would make sense, because Agatha did say that it happens that it always feels like that witches there's a 3-mile radius, and that witches kind of all just cluster together. I hope they do go that route, because otherwise I feel like it's like a cheap gag that doesn't make sense.
I think she's going to have powers and come into her own and act like I didn't even know. I mean, she did joke about having a green thumb, which is a very common term, but I thought that was interesting that they mentioned that for being a green witch. Yes. So I have a feeling that she's going to turn into a witch.
I hope so. I hope so. And especially because that would also give more credence to the fact that Rio Vidal, a lot of rumors out there about what she is. People saying that she's literally a gender bent. I've heard that one too. A literally gender bent Blackheart, which is another demon from the realm. Usually is an underling of Mephisto, or sometimes an underling. Rival of fights Ghost Rider a lot. I think actually was the villain in the Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider movie. If I remember correctly, I've tried to forget that movie. But Blackheart, classic demon villain, also can lead to Dormammu and other big characters, obviously in that realm. I think that it's too on the nose that they kept calling her the Blackheart and all this other stuff for Agatha.
I'll say this too: she helps Agatha in the first episode kind of find her way. So there's something deeper here. And again, we're just scratching the surface.
I think she might be Lady Death.
That would be an interesting person to bring out right now.
Yeah. I think she would be Lady Death. I think somebody who also has a relationship to Deadpool, obviously a relationship to Thanos.
Big relationship to Thanos.
Yeah, I think she might be Lady Death, because I think that would also be the fact, like, I think it'd be ironic that her name means Life River, but then she's actually Lady Death. Right?
That's a bold prediction, Ray. I'm not going to lie to you.
It's what we do here, my friend.
Yeah.
I called White Vision.
You did call White Vision. I remember thinking they won't go there, and you were 100% right.
So we'll see. Curious to see where else they go with Marvel, because we also got a new trailer for the Thunderbolts.
We got 2 new trailers. We have to talk about Andor Season 2 as well.
Yeah, I didn't even watch it.
I did, but Thunderbolts was very good.
Yes, it was. I mean, it kind of just gives us a little bit more of what we knew already was going to happen.
It was just
what we've seen, I should say, what we've seen. Yeah. But it was good to see more U.S. agent in action, and him it's my favorite thing is U.S. agents in the back of a Jeep and Crimson Guardians driving it along. And he's like, "Is that Bucky?"
Bucky?
Yeah,
Yeah. It was
Yeah,
really well done. I mean, they really
Yeah.
captured that these characters are all kind of in disarray. They
Mhm.
do not know their path. They do not know where they're going, and that they're going to be brought together here for some mission which they were not clear of at all.
No.
But it's nice to see Taskmaster in there. It's nice to see, I can't remember her name from Ant-Man 2.
Oh, Ghost.
Yeah, I
Or-
mean,
yeah,
like
right.
it's just, it's been years. It's nice to see some of these characters back. All right, because there was a lot of loose ends in Marvel,
Yeah.
but the humor captured in the trailer was fantastic. Sets the tone for the film pretty perfectly,
Yeah.
and I really loved kind of the tagline of "Careful who you assemble."
Yes.
That was a really good tagline.
Yes.
Right? Again, this is the anti-Avengers essentially. So
Yes.
I'm looking forward to seeing where they go. It looks like Bucky. I don't think he's going to be the villain. I think he's
No.
going to be more of the mentor, I guess. Of this
Yeah.
group.
Yeah, I think that's what's gonna. I think he's gonna become the de facto leader, but
Yeah.
it's gonna be a reluctant leader, right?
Or kind of co-leader, because they're obviously going to let what's her name lead it.
Yes. Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's going to be, but I think it's going to be, like you said, almost kind of like a mentorship role after a while. But I also really loved the line from Valentina Fontaine, played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus, about, I've learned that there's bad people and there's worse people.
Yeah.
Like, that's a great, great line. And I'm like, ooh, like, because again, it is comedy. But there's also definitely still that spy thriller-esque to it, and they're kind of like weaving those two things together in a fun way.
And just in case you don't know, this is Marvel's Suicide Squad, basically, but it's that's the fairest comparison.
Yes, 100%.
But it's going to be very Marvel-esque. Who do you think they're going to be fighting, Ray?
That's the question. Is it good? I mean, there's so many ways they could go. I don't look at
out after Captain America, correct?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be related to the Hulks, though. I think it's going to be. I mean, it could be. The thing is that they have Bob, and that makes me think of Hydra Bob there. And I wonder if they would do something like Sin, the granddaughter of the Red Skull.
Interesting. I mean, look, my gut is telling me that this is on the same path as Captain America, as kind of like the street level superheroes, if you will.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to have something to do with that. We also know, look, the GW Bridge, as you know, is in Captain America. Like, I think they're going to be opening up a whole new street level of violence. And you also have to kind of keep in mind, like, where has Valentina showed up, right? Obviously, she was at the end of the Black Widow movie. She was obviously a U.S. agent. So I think, though, it's within that world of storytelling that they're going to tell this story.
Well, and that's why I think that Red Skull's Nazi granddaughter could work, right?
The humor of that. A Nazi granddaughter? Yes, that's exactly.
I mean, there's not a lot of humor there, but like, this isn't completely. I mean, they also mentioned the Sentry's going to be in this, which, that's who Bob is. It's not Hydra Bob. It's the Sentry. The Sentry. I think it's funny they introduced themselves. Hi, I'm Bob. And the thing is that also if it's the Sentry, then you start getting. Here's the thing that you worry about, right? Is that like if it's the Sentry, you start getting into. Are they going to do the Void, which is basically just his dark. He's a split personality guy, and it just is he both a hero and a villain? Like, it could get messy very quickly.
Well, that's why I don't think they're going to do that. They've simplified everything recently. They said everything we're doing is very located to the topic of the film. So we'll see. I just think that they're segmenting into smaller universes within the universe.
Oh, we will see. We will see. That comes out, I think, May of next year. So it's going to be a big year, actually. Going to be a big. February is Captain America 4, and then I think you get Thunderbolts in May. So a lot of Marvel stuff just on the horizon.
Should be good.
Yes. Also, a review I wanted to mention, Agatha, much like WandaVision, is 9 episodes, not 8, which we've been getting a lot of lately. It's 9, including a 2-part finale. Now, they said they're going to do, instead of having it go to the first week of November, they're going to release the last 2 episodes on October the 30th.
Thank goodness they figured that out.
The day before Halloween. Ooh.
Smart.
Yes, very smart. You know who's not smart? DC Comics and Warner Brothers. They're desperately looking for attention. I will say that we'll start off with a little fun story. Batman is getting the star on the Walk of Fame, very rare for a fictional character. I think he might be the first.
And well deserved.
Yeah. Yes, of course. Absolutely. Honor and the 85th anniversary of Batman. So that's why they're doing that. It's a shred of good publicity to try to overshadow the mountains of garbage caused by David Zaslav and the disastrous dumpster fire that is Warner Brothers and DC Comics at the moment. But hey, Batman's got a star on the Walk of Fame. Awesome. Moving on.
That is awesome.
It is awesome, but it's also kind of just like,
way to go.
Boy, are you guys desperate for wins right now. Stephen Amell, also from the Arrowverse, obviously Green Arrow. He kind of called out James Gunn and John Cena. Mostly James Gunn for kind of, and this is something that I can attest to, is that like a lot of times the movie folks over at DC kind of poo-poo on the TV show folks.
Which and they should not do.
No, and Stephen Amell just kind of was like, because they kind of took a shot in Peacemaker at Green Arrow, and Stephen Amell is just kind of like, that's just uncalled for. And it's like, we carried, and to be fair, he's correct, we carried DC outside of the comics for like 9 years there. And he's absolutely 100% right.
Correct. Yeah.
Like, so for Gunn and Cena kind of went along with it just because he had to say the lines. But like Cena kind of like Amell kind of went back and was like, John's a nice guy. John was just doing his job, but he definitely was not walking back what he said about like kind of taking a shot at James Gunn to kind of be like, hey man, that's just uncalled for. Like,
there's no need to attack that universe. There was, and it was a very extensive universe. I know a lot of people who enjoyed that.
Yes.
Flash, plenty of shows in that universe.
Yes.
And this is what bugs me, Ray. DC has an extensive history on television.
Yeah.
And it's only been since the late 80s that the movies have really taken precedence, if you even want to call it precedence. So I don't understand that at all. Like, everybody was on TV before they were in film in this universe.
And that's the thing, is that also, by the way, like, why are you fighting within your own company?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
It's not Marvel taking a shot at DC. It's not Image taking a shot at DC. It's and again, this was a problem when I was there, is that it's DC versus DC, because it's always just seemed to be this weird sibling rivalry between the divisions within the company. Like, they can't get on the same page. Like, when I was at ESPN and we bought Marvel, we're like, welcome to the family.
Right.
And it's like, everybody's on the same page. Everybody's working together. And again, I never worked at Marvel, but like with ESPN, like, you had a little bit of competition, but ESPN radio would never bash ESPN television or anything.
No, there's no need to. Like, it's all one family. So I didn't understand this. It was probably just a side comment that he didn't mean to get out. But at the same time, it's like, it was supposed to be. It was a joke in Peacemaker, and and I guess that like a lot of folks like took it the wrong way. Like, I don't know. I feel like the air needs to be cleared up between these two, and that's probably not going to happen. Well, I'm going to say it again, that you get a nod, and maybe it was just a misplaced line, right? In the sense of like, maybe they didn't mean it to be bad, but man, like, it's like everything on DC was successful on television, probably more successful than the films in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, DC doesn't know what they're doing either.
I agree with you.
Speaking of John Cena and wrestling, though, this is
his name wrong.
John Cena.
Thank you, Ray. I appreciate that. I love you.
This is a classic. This is a big deal for WWE. They're bringing back Saturday Night Main Event in December.
Isn't that fun?
This is great.
Isn't that fun? I mean, the memories that brings up just as soon as you hear it, it's like, all right.
Yeah, no, exactly.
The Ultimate Maniacs are going to be on Geeks Who Like Sports in a power we can't understand. Oh, come on, that was a pretty good impression. You didn't even nod. You're just nodding.
Yeah,
I can't do Macho Man.
Oh yeah, the Saturday night main event used to be a staple of WWE television, but it's coming back in December as WWE growing everything. 3 hours of SmackDown. We're going to Netflix. We're not gonna bleep out the holy shits anymore. It's gonna be amazing, amazing WWE television.
He can't use enough cocaine to contain the Ultimate Maniac. Just realized that's not as hard to do as I thought it would be.
No.
Anyway,
but no, that's a big deal. WWE is clicking right now on all cylinders. It seems like they can do no wrong, except for that Mr. McMahon documentary that's coming out.
That's coming.
And yeah, so maybe they should build up as much goodwill as they can.
Our producer's nodding his head like it's coming. It's gonna be so good.
Yeah. So the fact that Vince McMahon has already made a statement about it says everything you need to know. He basically said, he's like, the producers trying to desperately get ratings, did not tell both sides of the story.
Nice,
and
it's true. Gotcha.
Yeah.
It's going to be very, very accurate. Understood.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Did he shave that mustache off yet, or is he still?
I don't know what he's been doing.
Nobody wants to know what he's been doing.
Don't really care.
Yeah,
but he also mentioned, he's like, they're basically comparing something that happened in a lawsuit to as if I'm actually Mr. McMahon. He's like, no, I'm Vince, and it's like,
Yeah, there's a lot of legal documentation that you actually are Mr. McMahon, sir.
Yes,
and I will always be grateful for what you've created, but at the same time, we condemn you for what you've done. Those two things can exist at the same time.
Yes. Speaking of lawsuits and damning people for what they've done, surprised this did not happen sooner. But actually, you know what it is? It's Nintendo probably being like, we're going to wait till they have a lot of money. And then we're going to take it all from them.
It's a rich man's game.
Yeah. Nintendo is suing Pocket Pair, the folks who made Palworld, which is basically, folks, they said it. It's Pokemon with guns. And Nintendo's like, it's too close to Pokemon, even with the guns. We're suing you for copyright. And Pocket Pair's in trouble. Like a lot of trouble. Because also Nintendo, people are like, why did it take so long? Because I'm sure that Nintendo got all their ducks in a row before they pulled the trigger on this.
Nintendo's smart, and we're not. There's your whole segment right there. Because Nintendo is smart, calculated, and knows exactly what they're doing.
Yes, and Pocket
Pair doesn't. They're the people that iron their pants perfectly.
Yes, and Pocket Pair is in a lot of trouble. We may be finding out that Pocket Pair is going to be acquired by Nintendo.
That's probably what's likely to happen.
Yeah,
and then you're going to see guns and Pokemon, and we'll all win.
I don't know about that, but it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Use Glock. Pika pika.
I do not think that is going to happen anytime soon. Nintendo is a family company. I did not see. Could you imagine him a champ though? He's got four AR-15s and one of each.
Champ, use whatever you got, buddy.
Bullet barrage. Anyway, we've got this. This is the mashup that nobody wanted.
Moving on. Yeah, that's a good point.
Moving on, we mentioned that WWE is going to Netflix. We're talking a little bit of video games. This is fun. Netflix has been a bastion for video game content being turned into animes and TV shows and whatnot. Devil May Cry is getting their own anime on Netflix, and honestly, it lends itself to anime perfectly.
It's an IP world. I'm actually surprised more of these games don't get better usage out of them. The thing is, things like Borderlands happen, and then it's like, well, you didn't really know what you were doing there.
That's the thing. There's cash grabs, and there's people who actually care, and I feel like the Devil May Cry anime, and this other one, Splinter Cell getting a cartoon.
Which totally makes sense, by the way.
100%, and Liev Schreiber is going to be Sam Fisher.
Yeah. Liev Schreiber, for those of you who somehow don't know this, he plays Sabretooth. That's how most of you will know him. Did I say Liv? I meant Liev. He's also been doing voiceover work for decades. In fact, if any of you ever watched HBO Sports, any of the documentaries on HBO Sports, that's him narrating almost 99% of the time from the 90s till probably not too long ago. That's him.
Yeah, but he was also Ray Donovan for 7 seasons. That show, which I think makes him just lends himself even more to something like a Sam Fisher.
He's just got that deep voice.
yeah, it's perfect.
It was funny,
And
Ray. They asked him to come back as Sabretooth in Deadpool and Wolverine, and he's
yeah,
just like, guys, I'm really old. Like,
yeah.
I think you guys don't realize how old I am and how old I was when I did that.
Yeah.
He's
Actually,
like,
I'm
it's not going to
curious.
look good. I'm not muscular. He's like, I'm old. I'm old, Liev Schreiber. It's just that it's not going to play out the way you want. Still would have loved
Yeah.
to have seen him.
I mean, to be fair, he's around Hugh Jackman's age. He's 56.
Yeah, but Hugh Jackman is a freak of nature, and we all know it.
That is also true.
He does not make sense. There's some
Yes.
genetic thing there, right?
Yeah.
I bet you Liev Schreiber is lactose intolerant. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure he is just like all of
I know
us.
a thing or two about that as I watch my body slowly wither.
And yeah,
away.
Hugh Jackman's 55. So yeah, so they're right around.
I'm gonna say that he is a freak of nature, and he's one
100%.
of the nicest people in the world. But his workout routine, I don't think any of us could keep up with.
Yes.
So I would not wake up at 4 a.m. to have a sandwich the way he was doing it, even though I've had sandwiches at 4 a.m. before.
Oh, me too.
But it's not because I was waking up to put protein on for a workout.
No.
Did you ever hear him tell that story about like I had to wake up at 4 a.m. and have a chicken sandwich every day? And that's all I do. I'd eat a chicken sandwich and go back to sleep. And I was like, my God. Anyway, yes, Liev Schreiber. Awesome. Let's do it.
Yes. Moving on to our last topic of the day. This is interesting.
Interesting topic predicted years ago.
Theaters, desperate to get people back to the theater, are spending $2 billion in upgrades over the next 3 years. The largest chains are doing this combined.
Yes.
The National Alliance of Theater Owners are doing this, and different kind of NATO than the ones you usually hear in the news.
And because it's a movie theater, Ray, pickleball courts.
Pickleball courts, bowling alleys, all kinds of stuff, trying to get you to come to the building for a more grand experience.
What a concept, Ray.
Yeah. I mean, they could have also just lowered the price of movie tickets, but instead they're going to do this, and they are going to, because they're trying to find ways to offer people more.
Yes, make it a day out. I don't know why it took them this long to figure this out.
Make it like an amusement park.
And again, not every family can do this. I always like to preface that. If you could make a somewhat semi-affordable day for me and my family to go see a movie, play some games, do something active, I'm going to do that every once in a while because it's a fun thing to do. I don't know why it took this long.
Make it like Disneyland
right now.
Make it like Disneyland.
Just give it an experience feel. People want that. And now that COVID's really in the rearview mirror, I think they're figuring it out of like, oh. But like, guys, look, I'm paying honestly $30 to $40 at minimum to see something that I hope is good and eat food that's really bad for me. You can give us a little bit better experience for that.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yep. Absolutely.
All the arcades.
Absolutely. That is also true.
Yeah. So pickleball courts, bowling alleys, other things. I mean, I'll give this too. Like a lot of theaters, I'm looking at my baby Deadpool popcorn bucket over here. They have gone in a little bit more lately on the kind of theater promotional stuff, which I do appreciate. But at the same time, like it's not enough.
No.
Like the last time I went to see a movie, it was Beetlejuice, and they had like the guide for the recently deceased popcorn bucket. I'm like, I don't want to pay $30 for that.
No.
You know?
No. Like,
so it's like, come on, guys. But the baby Deadpool had to come home with it.
They're scraping the bottom of the barrel when it comes to some of these ideas, but hopefully this is.
I hope so. The stadium seats was a great upgrade years ago.
100%.
We had that when I was a kid, but
but it's not enough. You got to keep it up. You got to keep up with the times. But we'll see. But because that's the other thing too is how much more is these experiences going to cost? How much is the pickleball court?
You got to get people away from their 72-inch TVs with 1080p HDMI, if not 4K. And you need to make an experience. This is only going to get worse if you don't. So, look, it's an eye roller because we've been saying it for 5 years.
Yes.
But it's also nice to hear about it.
Yes. So, interesting to see what happens. Over the next 3 years, all these upgrades are going to start getting instituted around the country. So, so that's what's going on in the geek world. And that is another edition of Geeks Who Like Sports. We did it, Lee. Landed the plane.
Well, it was a fun show. And again, the episodes are only going to become more consumable, like a great hoagie or sub filled with meats and cheeses and garden stuff, as they say in the UK, because the geek sports world is a sandwich we all can enjoy together here on Geeks Like Sports. And as we head into October, it's only going to get better, my friends. So get your mustard, get your mayonnaise, get your favorite hoagie, and enjoy it with us on Geeks Who Like Sports. Good night, everybody.
No, yeah, like Lee said, we're a sandwich. Yeah, we're a sandwich.
We're a sandwich. There you go. Good follow up there. Favorite sandwich.
No, I could have just let it go. You could just let it end it there. We could have ended it there. That was a good outro.
Oh, no, I wasn't trying to end it. What was funny for those of you listening is Ray was so silent. I'm like, oh my God, did I just end the show by accident?
Yeah, I didn't know what to do. I was like, I guess. No, you know what it is I'm really hungry. I want to go get lunch now. So I gotta go get a sandwich. I gotta go. Actually, I have a meeting and then I have to go get a sandwich. I'm gonna be useless in this meeting. I am not good hungry, folks. I am not good hungry. Anyway, so for Lee, I'm Hungry Ray, and until next time, this has been Geeks Who Like Sports. Good night, everybody.
You can't contain the power of the ultimate maniac.
Who's subscribing? Comment below.